Objection! Hello, every pony! I'm MasterCode, your ace analyst, and it wasn't until quite recently that I forgot I hadn't covered the last of G5's main comic series, so I figured I might as well finish off that last arc. So, let's dive right on in. The story begins in Zephyr Heights, where the family is preparing to host the royal dinner for the citizens of the town. Queen Haven tasks her daughters to organize the dinner prep and the entertainment, with Zipp handling the former and Pipp the latter. The pop star princess is in her usual wheelhouse, singing to the masses. However, Zipp is less than thrilled about the whole event, having to do all the boring organizing stuff. The sisters butt heads, arguing over who has the more difficult responsibilities, leading to a fallout between the two.
I'm pouting.
One thing I've always praised in G5 is the relationship between the royal sisters. Despite the competing personalities, you can see the love for each other throughout the series. Just the opening scene of them waking up and getting ready for day is not only cute and fun, but also exemplifies their personalities to a T, with Pipp up and ready for the day while Zipp is content to just lying in bed, her mother practically dragging her to the dining room.
I am dead, blah.
And whenever the sisters argue, like here, it comes off as genuinely emotional or entertaining and funny. Of course, the humor is exemplified even further due to the artwork by Amy Memberson and Heather Breckle. The faces and poses can go from normal and reserved to goofy and over the top. The backgrounds for the most part are fleshed out, and only rarely are the characters just floating in a void or a simple gradient background. Overall, visually, it's pretty good. Anyway, back to the story. During the concert rehearsal, another musician named Karatang crashes the show. So Pipp had agreed to advertise his new single via a shout-out or something like that, but takes it upon himself to advertise his song and himself everywhere, including on top of Pipp's own posters. He has this sob story about, oh, I wasn't born in the royal family, so I have to struggle to get a leg up in the industry, and blah blah blah. He's a jerk, and I don't feel sympathy for the guy at all. Seriously, he just comes in, drops his posters everywhere without permission, littering, all in an attempt to get noticed. And I only end up hating him more as the story went on. So after the spat between the sisters, Pipp runs across this wishing well nymph named Milkyway. I do like her design with a cool color scheme and is pretty adorable overall, but I have no idea what the point of this emotion wheel is. It never comes into play and is never seen again after this first meeting. The two talk it out and Pipp says that she just wants her sister to understand the stresses of being a pop star. The two depart, and the next morning the Pipsqueaks, or Zipsqueaks, want pop star Zipp's autograph, and the sisters also discover that their cutie marks have been switched. So, the first issue of this arc, despite some issues, is actually not too bad. You got a great cliffhanger, you got some good back and forth between Pipp and Zipp, and other than Karatang, it's a solid issue. Unfortunately, that sentiment would not last. Moving on, we pick up immediately after, where we see that all reality has been affected, with even Sunny and crew thinking that Zipp is the pop star sensation as well.
I'm a fiddler crab!
I do like that the group does take logical steps to figure out this whole issue, figuring out who the sisters really are, and some decently powerful magic took place, and trying to understand more about this mystical nymph. It makes sense. It's utilizing our group's strengths and feels like a natural progression of the story. Again, that won't last long. They attempt to find Milkyway, but with no success, the sisters start to argue again, and the nymph suddenly appears, monitoring the friendship problem between the two. And it's here I really start to not like Milkyway. Initially, she was somewhat of a sympathetic character, as in the previous issue, she professed to Pipp about how she constantly messes up in her job and wanting to help ponies, and when Pipp comes along, this led to the problem/solution of how she can help ponies and prove that she's a worthy nymph once more. Okay, fine. But now her moral compass is even more out of whack, as she now cares more about the loopholes and watching the drama unfold than actually rectifying the issue. Now, she is an eccentric fellow in a somewhat similar vein to Discord, but the difference is that Discord had charm and wit along with the eclectic personality, and he was still likable even when doing something dubious. Whereas Milkyway is just some annoying little magical nymph who essentially forced this issue onto the squabbling sisters, but again claims she's innocent because wishing and wanting Zipp to learn about her struggles is the exact same thing. So technically, she's innocent.
Technically, you're a goddamn idiot.
Milkyway runs off, leaving Zipp and Pipp with their dilemma of not only the royal dinner, but also their cutie mark conundrum. After another argument, which as you can see happens a lot, they decide to ultimately take on each other's roles, which goes about as well as you'd expect.
I didn't do it.
Zipp tries to play the social media pop princess role, but finds ponies avoiding her and discovers that Carotang's been spreading lies about her, and she even threatens to ban him from ever performing in Zephyr Heights again, but learns later on that Carotang's microphone was on and every pony heard that. Whoops. Look, I would be fine with this guy if he wasn't such a jerk. Like if he was an eccentric yet talented musician fighting his way to the top, relying solely on his skills and talent, and seeing how his and Pip's music styles could work together and mesh, which would have been an interesting story. But instead, we got a guy who spreads lies and only cares about himself. Are we supposed to feel sorry for him? Because we don't. We don't. Anyway, the two continue to struggle with their switched lives. Meanwhile, Sunny and the rest of the group locate a restaurant owner who had their own run-in with Milkyway and want to see how he dealt with her. So apparently this guy named Panini had sought out this nymph. How he knew about her is never explained, but she helps him to accomplish his dreams to open his own diner, and to help in this endeavor, she cast a spell on him that prevented him from sleeping. Oh, I don't see any problem with that, other than the fatigue, moodiness, and, what else? Oh yeah, death?
Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Which I guess is the big reveal of Milkyway being a big failure as she is as a wishing well nymph. The gang gets the idea to lure her back by showing how bad things are at the royal dinner, but instead of being remorseful for her actions, she decides to cause a storm that ensures that the dinner will surely be cancelled. Because she can do that, I guess.
Use your aggressive feelings. Let the heat flow through you.
I thought her magic was just limited to wishes, but hey, what do I know? In their darkest hour, Pip actually comes up with a pretty clever idea in hosting a virtual royal dinner with the help of a Bluey cameo.
Hey, Fernie, play metal!
Zipp begrudgingly goes to recruit Carotang to play at the virtual concert, still acting his smug self as Zipp apologizes. Now, here's the problem with the apology, on both ends. Yes, Carotang lied and manipulated Zipp's fans to make them think she was terrible, but Zipp did abduct him in an alley earlier to forcibly confront him. Also, the way that she phrases the apology is that she needs him to come to the dinner simply to save the dinner. However, because of the previous alley confrontation, it feels kind of hollow. Wherein it would have been a much more mature apology if she said she wanted to give him a true platform to show off his music for his sake, to show that the royals don't only care about themselves. Instead, he still remains his smug self, still caring about his own career. Also, check out Carotang's pad. The dude can apparently afford the equivalent of a high-rise apartment with some pretty decent furniture and accoutrements, and his own personal high-tech recording studio. Which leads to another misstep with this character. He's whining and being a jerk to Zipp and Pipp, and yet he seems to lead a pretty good life, so he just comes off as kind of a rich snob. It would have been much more impactful if we found out he lived in some low-rent apartment, barely scraping by, performing with what little musical equipment he can afford, yet still make some great songs. This would give him a reason for his selfish outlook on life, yet show he's still talented, scraping by on what he's got. His grit is inspiring, despite his less than glamorous life, leading Zipp and Pipp to feel sorry for him, earning legit sympathy. As is, he sucks. And speaking of characters I don't like, Milkyway learns about this virtual dinner, and instead of applauding the sisters for their creative way of resolving the issue, she attempts to put a stop to it to cause another disaster for the sisters.
Now, young Skywalker, you will die.
I'm sorry, but are we supposed to like this nymph? Ugh. Anyway, the dinner and concert turns out to be a massive success. The sisters make up, for the most part, ending this arc, and the main G5 series of comics. So that's what I guess we can call the Milky Way arc, and I gotta say, it starts out decent enough, but goes downhill fast. The stuff with the sisters is always good. However, I would say there are one too many repetitive arguments. Coupled with unlikable characters like Carotang and Milkyway, it brings down the quality of the comic. Plus, the comic at 5 issues is just way too long for this kind of story. And the pacing makes the comic feel like a slog to get through. Like just when you think the story is just about to close, it just keeps going. The artwork is solid, which is pretty much the only other positive I can say about the story. At best, these comics are okay, but otherwise, I'd say just skip it. But hopefully next time we'll get something much more interesting. Well, that's it for today, guys. Until next time, MC out!